Hello fans of the Pokemon franchise, JPowTV here, and today I'm here to talk to you about the missing Pokemon protagonist. Yes, there's a missing Pokemon protagonist in the series, and that character is none other than Leaf, or Green depending on who you ask. But for the sake of this video, I will be referring to her as her Gen 3 moniker, Leaf. Pokemon has had a variety of characters over the years, but in its very humble origins back in the 90s, it wasn't always easy. Gen 1 was filled to the brim with bugs and glitches that made the game borderline broken at times, looking at you psychic types, and the franchise took its time to hit its stride despite massive popularity. One of the things that wasn't able to be implemented until Gen 2 was the introduction of a female protagonist, which didn't come along until the third version, Crystal. But what you may not know is that there were actually plans for a female protagonist to be in the original Red and Green. But due to time constraints and space constraints for the original Game Boy cartridge, these plans were cut, but not before series art director Ken Sugimori made artwork featuring a proto design for the female protagonist with a Squirtle alongside Red and his Bulbasaur and Blue and his Charmander. This design would later go on to inspire the character Green in Pokemon Adventures. However, not all is lost, because the character was included in the Gen 3 remakes as a result of the definitive decision to have a female protagonist. And while this is great for anybody who wanted to play as a female protagonist in the Kanto games, this strangely did not translate into anything in the sequel to Fire Red and Leaf Green, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. And now, what could I possibly mean by this? Well, to be blunt, despite being included in the Kanto's game's plot if she's a playable character, Leaf is nowhere to be found in Kanto during Heart Gold and Soul Silver's playthrough, while Red and Blue still have their roles intact. And this has baffled me even to this day, given how much was included in Fire Red and Leaf Green that could have been translated to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Green herself would eventually appear in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but to be fair, these games are not set in the main continuity, and honestly, I think this was a terrible decision, as there were plenty of things they could have done with the character as a Superboss. Remember when I said that there were a lot of things that were included in Fire Red and Leaf Green that could have translated into Heart Gold and Soul Silver? One of these things was the introduction of the Sevi Islands. My belief is that Leaf could have appeared in these islands as extra inclusions for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, as one island in the Sevi Islands has a mountain not unlike Mount Silver known as Mount Ember. So had this theoretically been included, I want to talk about the team she might have had given her team in the Let's Go games, while also taking into account how Red and Blue's teams are in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. In the Let's Go games, Red, Blue, and Green each have a starter representative, with Red having Bulbasaur, Blue having Charmander, and Green having Squirtle. The issue with this, though, for the main games is that Red canonically has all three starter Pokemon in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so this cannot be possible for Leaf to have a Blastoise in Gen 4, but instead, she will have Pokemon to cover the starters, similar to how Blue does as both a rival and a gym leader in Gen 3 and Gen 4. But more on that later. To start out, I believe Leaf's first Pokemon would be none other than the lovable pink fairy herself, Clefairy, which is a nice little reference to the fact that Clefairy initially was going to be the main mascot of Pokemon before they settled on Pikachu. Plus, there's rumors or indications that Clefairy may have been the third starter for the Let's Go games. The second Pokemon on her list would be Gengar, a reference to the fact that her Clefairy, if evolved into Clefable in Gen 4, Gengar is considered the shadow of Clefable, much like Leaf is the shadow to Red. The rest of the team has a bit of versatility to it, given the differences between Gen 3 and 4 to later gens where Green was included in the Let's Go games. Given Clefairy's typing in Gen 4 as a normal type, as Fairy was not introduced until Gen 6, two candidates for the team based on that would be Kangaskhan and Nidoqueen. Both of them are female Pokemon in Gen 1. The thing about these two Pokemon is that Kangaskhan would have a wide variety of moves, but would be an extra normal type on the team with nothing to add to the table, unlike Red's Lapras to Blastoise, since Lapras was an ice type alongside the fact it was a water type. So, based on this fact, I think in the main games, Leaf would have had a Nidoqueen since it is a ground and poison type, giving it a different typing from Clefairy's then normal type. And if you thought that was tricky, now we have to go into the elemental replacements for the Kanto starter Pokemon. And much like the Let's Go games, I think Leaf would have a Ninetales. And fun fact, this would actually be a nice reference to how different Blue's team is in Yellow to Red and Blue, since Ninetales was on his Yellow team. If you want something different, you can do Rapidash, but I think Ninetales just has a better fit to Leaf's character, plus again it references the team in Yellow that Blue has. For the water type replacement, we have Dugong. But if you really want to go into the reference territory once again, there is another water type used by Blue that could be on Leaf's team, and that is Cloyster. Cloyster, much like Red's Lapras, is a water and ice type, giving it some versatility. The same does go for Dugong, but once again is a nice reference to Blue's team in Yellow. Finally, we have the grass replacement for Leaf's team, and that is Victreebel. Given that Leaf is a Superboss, and most of the Superbosses have Pokemon that are very offensive, Victreebel would be a very good choice. The reason I say this is because another candidate would be Vileplume, so here are my thoughts on what Leaf's team would have been if she had been included in Heart Gold and Soul Silver as a Superboss. But what do you think? Do you have any opinions on this team? If so, comment below, and I'll see you later.